Number 10. Daniel Andrews. In the spring of 2020, Australian politician Daniel Andrews, the acting Premier of Victoria, had a 77% approval rating for his handling of the pandemic. About a year later, on the morning of March the 9th of 2021, Andrews was at a holiday home in the Mornington Peninsula. It was an opportunity for him and his family to unwind following a strenuous period of lockdowns and response plans. Unfortunately, his respite would be marred by a brutal accident. As he was getting ready to return to the office, Andrews slipped off a wet step and, by his account, nearly became airborne. As he tumbled down the steps, the 48-year-old reported hearing an almighty crunch. It was at that point that he knew his injuries were severe, and he was in too much pain to properly breathe or speak. His wife, Catherine, heard his pain-filled groans and called the emergency services. Looking back on the incident, she remembered seeing her husband turning blue and fearing that he might die. Doctors would later inform the Premier that he'd broken 5 ribs and shattered his T7 vertebrae, located below his shoulder blades. For roughly 3 months during his recovery, Andrews disappeared from the public eye. It prompted several conspiracy theories, one of which was that he'd been physically assaulted by someone opposing the lockdowns. Once recovered, Andrews appeared in a video alongside his wife to explain in detail what had happened. Number 9. Sophia Cristani. On October the 6th of 2019, a New Zealand student died in an incident that reportedly involved her being trampled at a property in Dunedin. 19-year-old Sophia Cristani was among the hundreds of partygoers who'd gathered at a 114-year-old villa known as The Manor. The event had been promoted as the last party to be held at the property, which was a local landmark, before the University of Otago took over its lease. As such, the number of attendees far exceeded the building's capacity. As the party raged out of control, Campus Watch called the police for assistance in shutting it down. When it became evident that the authorities were heading to the address, panicked students stampeded out of the building. There was a stairwell pileup in which Cristani was crushed. 2 other students were reported to have been seriously injured in the stampede. The police arrived within minutes of the call placed shortly before midnight and cleared a path that enabled students to carry Cristani out of the building. By the time she was tended to by rescuers, the teenager was unresponsive and tragically, she couldn't be resuscitated. Cristani's twin sister Frances, her parents, and her friends were devastated by her passing. In the aftermath, her family collaborated with the university, the police, and other institutions to launch the Sophia Charter, meant to enhance the safety and well-being of the student community in North Dunedin. Number 8. Sophie Cole. In late September of 2017, a student at the University of Limerick in Ireland died after falling on the stairs at her accommodation. 19-year-old Sophie Cole was joined by 3 friends at the property on College Drive in Castletroy. They were climbing the stairs and had made it up 7 or 8 steps. One of them lost their balance and wobbled, causing a domino effect that impacted Cole, who was at the end of the group. She fell, and although the height wasn't significant, the young student hit her head on the hall's hard, tiled floor. The impact left her with traumatic brain damage, to which she succumbed in a Limerick hospital the following day. Transporting her from the student home to the emergency room took nearly an hour, but her injuries were deemed so severe that even if the ambulance had arrived quicker, it wouldn't have made a difference. A coroner recorded a verdict of accidental death, noting that even though the group had been drinking, alcohol hadn't been a contributing factor. Following her death, some of her friends put together Sophie's Ball, a charity event in her memory which benefited a number of organizations. Number 7. Charlotte Watson. 33-year-old Charlotte Watson took a fatal fall in September of 2018, following a 5-hour drinking session at her home in Derbyshire. Watson's partner, 34-year-old Chris Hadley, passed her on the way to the bathroom. He remembered that she looked dazed as she sat up on the floor of their bedroom at around midnight. Hadley then heard a commotion and realized that Watson had fallen down the stairs. After seeing her lying motionless at the bottom, he immediately attempted CPR on her and asked a friend who was staying with them to phone the emergency services. Looking back on the incident, Hadley remembered that resuscitation appeared to be successful, but added that there was a lot of blood coming out of Watson's nose. She was taken to a local hospital where doctors determined that her head injury was irreversible. After she'd collided with the wall and taken a hard hit in the back of the skull, she was taken off life support on September the 8th. Speaking on the passing of his partner of 4 years, Hadley mentioned that the steps in their home were typical of old terrace houses, very steep, and noted that they didn't comply with contemporary building regulations. Number 6. Colin Taylor. In January of 2019, Scottish man Colin Taylor fell down the stairs of his home in the village of Bothwell and was left with critical injuries. On Sunday, January the 20th, two of his friends found 48-year-old Taylor unconscious at the foot of the stairs. He was taken to University Hospital Monklands, where he died from severe brain hemorrhage. No one had witnessed the accident, therefore it's unclear what Taylor was doing at the time. However, his sister, who was distraught by his passing, noted that he was a popular figure in the community and that he liked a pint or two. Alcohol may have played a role, but a coroner didn't officially confirm it. As per Taylor's wishes, his organs were donated and his family was told that his gesture had helped save the lives of 5 other people. Within a matter of days, a Just Giving page received donations worth thousands of pounds aimed at paying for Taylor's funeral. Number 5. Natalie Morris. In 2013, Natalie Morris narrowly avoided becoming paralyzed after tumbling down a flight of stairs at her home in Rotherham, South Yorkshire, England. 26-year-old Morris tripped while trying to get to the bathroom at night without turning on the lights. After taking a hard fall in the dark, she had trouble piecing together what had happened, but could feel a searing pain in the middle of her back. She mustered her strength and was able to crawl to her couch and call for an ambulance. Upon arriving at the emergency room, she thought that her injury wasn't that severe, as did her doctors, who'd initially planned to send her home with a prescription for antibiotics. Her scans, however, pointed to a harsher reality. The T12 vertebrae in her spine had shattered and burst open, tearing up ligaments and tendons, which put her at risk for paralysis. Doctors, one of whom described the injury as toe curling, told Morris that in the worst-case scenario, she'd never walk again. She was in surgery for 7 hours and for 3 days afterwards had to lie completely motionless while in agonizing pain. Aside from a bone graft being taken from her pelvis, the procedure also involved building a cage around her spine to stabilize the break. Morris was extremely fortunate not to have damaged her spinal cord and was told that she'd be able to walk again in up to 6 months. She defied expectations and astounded her doctors when she was back on her feet in just 10 days. Number 4. Mark Winchester. In February of 2020, Canadian man Mark Winchester and his wife arrived in the Dominican Republic for a week-long vacation alongside another couple. They were staying at an all-inclusive resort outside of Puerto Plata. It wasn't long after his arrival to the Caribbean country that Winchester was found unconscious at the resort. According to local police, he was in a state of inebriation upon falling down a flight of stairs. The 42-year-old suffered a devastating injury to the back of his head, which he was unable to recover from, in spite of having spent several hours in surgery. Winchester, who owned a conveyor belt business in Nova Scotia, was survived by his wife, son, and 3 stepchildren. Number 3. Hideto Ueda. In 2015, while attempting to take a selfie at the Taj Mahal's Royal Gate, a Japanese tourist suffered a devastating fall on the steps of the iconic monument, which attracts thousands of visitors on a daily basis. The victim, identified as 66-year-old Hideto Ueda, was accompanied by a guide and 3 other companions. He was trying to take a selfie when he lost his footing and fell backwards on the marble steps. Ueda's condition was critical, as in addition to injuries sustained in the fall, he'd also suffered a heart attack. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital, but unfortunately, he couldn't be revived. One of Ueda's companions, who'd fallen with him, was reportedly left with a fractured leg. Today's topic was inspired by Nitin Padale. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. James Acheson-Hill. In January of 2020, a father of 1 passed away after falling on the steps at a bar in central Worcester, England. 27-year-old James Atchison-Hill, who worked as a senior applications engineer, was exiting a bar called Heroes on Friar Street. It's unclear if he was inebriated at the time. In what was described as a freak accident, the longtime Liverpool FC supporter slipped down the bar steps and sustained a severe head injury. He passed away at a local hospital the following day, on January the 19th. An investigation was launched by West Mercia Police, but Acheson-Hill's death wasn't treated as suspicious. In the tragic incident's aftermath, there was an outpour of tributes for the young man, whom family members described as a devoted father, and whom colleagues referred to as a rising star. Number 1. John and Chun Hewitson. On October the 15th of 2018, John and Chun Hewitson were found unresponsive near a flight of stairs at their home in Suffolk, England. 55-year-old Chun was the primary caregiver for her husband, who was 35 years her senior. She was originally from Malaysia and had met John while working in Woodbridge prior to marrying him in 2006. By August of 2018, as he was suffering from dementia and glaucoma, John was no longer able to recognize his wife, on whom he depended for most of his daily activities. Even though the couple had been offered help, Chun was adamant about caring for John herself. The day before they were discovered, according to her daughter, the woman had nearly fallen down the stairs while helping John, who was blind and generally unsteady, to bed. Concerned neighbors went to check on them upon noticing their front door was ajar. They were rushed to the hospital, where the cause of death was determined to have been a severe head injury in Chun's case and bronchopneumonia for John. The report released by the Suffolk police claimed that there were no signs of involvement from a third party, and that the scene appeared to fit both falling down the stairs as a tragic accident. Thanks for watching. While blindfolded, would you rather climb down the stairs from the top of a skyscraper or cross a busy highway? Let us know in the comments section below.